I'm finally ready to get the Carbon Tuff gravel wheels up and running. It's been a busy month, some travel, but most of all I had to get some parts. So the valve stems that they threw in the box were a little too short, like maybe 10 millimeters too short. So I had to get some Stan's valve stem extenders. I've never used these, but you have to use these with a deeper dish carbon wheel. I'm gonna figure out how these work as I go, because like I said, this is the first time using these. So I've got a cassette, SRAM PG 1130 cassette, and some SRAM 6-bolt rotors. Before I show the tires that I'm gonna put on these, let me tell you about what I'm gonna do with the wheels, and that is I'm gonna put them on the cyclocross bike, on the Giant TCX. One of the things that I love about the Giant TCX is the amount of tire clearance. So you can see on the rear, this is a 700 by 33C tire that's currently on the bike, and there's just a massive amount of tire clearance. And then on the front with a 33C tire, there is even more tire clearance. So WTB just sent me 2 sets of gravel tires. They sent me the Nanos, which is a 40C tire, and then they sent me the Riddlers, which is a 45C tire. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to put the 45s on these wheels and see if they'll fit on the Giant TCX. So it'll be cool to have another set of wheels for the TCX, because when cross season is over, I don't wanna just put the bike up and not ride it. I mean, I've got a gravel bike, but I like riding the TCX on gravel, but I really like riding it on single track. One thing that I like about the TCX is the higher bottom bracket, which does well for single track for getting over logs. Also, I've got a cyclocross race coming up in a few weeks that's a pretty rough course. In fact, it has some rooty single track, so I might even race the Tuff wheel set with the 45C tires. So with that, let's get started. So the way that the valve extenders work is you have to remove the valve core from a shorter valve stem. And by the way, I'm going to use some that I had laying around because the Giant ones are they're pretty long. So if I put the valve extender on these, it's going to be super long. So you remove the valve core and then you thread these in, and then it's hard to see, but there is a place here where you can put like a spoke wrench. So I have this old spoke wrench and it uses a 9 gauge, which is pretty wide, and then you just kind of tighten it down with that spoke wrench. It doesn't have to be crazy tight because it's got an O-ring. And then you put your valve core back in the top of the valve stem extender and then just tighten it down with a valve core tool. And that is a super long valve stem. So I'm going to start with the front one first, and we're going to see how these air up as tubeless. If you remember from the first video, if you watched it, there are no spoke holes to access from the top, so there's no rim tape. It's a solid carbon. And if you're wondering how a wheel builder builds a wheel without access to spoke holes from the top, what they do, and I had to learn this actually after I posted the video because I was curious, is you have to put the spoke nipples inside and feed them through with a magnet, and then you put them to the appropriate spoke hole. So just in case you're curious. Well, we have a change in the game plan. On my YouTube channel, I share all aspects of bike maintenance, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today's the ugly, or the bad. I can't get these WTB tires on these wheels. This is my first time using WTB gravel tires, and that is as far as I can get the bead on this wheel. I don't throw in the towel very often with bike maintenance, but I'm throwing in the towel. It's Saturday and I want to go ride. I have one Maxxis Rambler here that I'm going to put on one of these wheels, and then I've got to go to the bike shop and get another tire. You know, there are some rim and tire combinations that don't work, and this is one of them. I don't know if it's the rim or if it's the tire or maybe a combination of both, but this ain't going on, folks. I mean, I've tried with tire levers, I've tried with soap, and I'm done. So let's try the Maxxis Rambler. All right, so I got the Maxxis Rambler on there. It was still tight, but it went on. This tire has actually been used, so the bead has been stretched out a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if when I pick up a new tire, new Maxxis Rambler, which is probably what I'll get, if it'll go on this rim. So another week or two before I can get these wheels up and running. Bike maintenance, you gotta love it. All right, let's see how these air up as tubeless. Well, looks like I gotta take the valve core out. All right, valve core removed. We're just gonna blast air in, get the beads to seat, and then we'll put the valve core back in. Well, oh gosh, I love bike maintenance. So this valve stem that I was using isn't gonna work. It's like the O-ring won't seat down in there. There's still a little gap because of the way the channel of the rim is. So I'm gonna try the original valve stems that were sent with the wheels because this one won't work. Well, today is not a good bike maintenance day. Here's the thing with YouTube is I can share with you all the how-tos and also the frustrations to let you know when you hit your frustration points, there are other people who hit frustration points. So here's the problem. With these valve stem extenders, let me make sure that's in focus. So with the valve stem extenders, the threaded nut will only go up to right there. You can't go past it. The threads stop. And so this nut that you have to install to hold the valve stem on stops right there. So that's a no-go. So here's the deal with the original valve stems that were included. I can't even get the nut to start even catching on the threads. I'm gonna have to see if I can get some really short valve stems from the bike shop because this combination of longish valve stems and the valve stem extenders does not work. Yeah. Good grief. All right, well, I'm done. I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna have to go to the bike shop and get a tire and get some different valve stems, some shorter ones. So, all right, we're wrapping up for today. I'll pick it back up later. All right, well, I'm picking it back up on the same day. So I did have another valve stem in my toolbox, just one, so I still have to go to the bike shop, but this one worked, so it was shorter. So that's the thing is, if you're gonna use these valve stem extenders, you've got to have a pretty short valve stem to start with, to work with. So now let's try to air these tires up. Oh, we have success.
Yes.
So it seems to be holding pretty well. You know, I kind of shook them around a little bit. I'll let it sit for a while. These lock in the bead very well. Like I'm pushing in with my thumb, and sometimes I can get air to burp out. I can't get it to do that with these. So the Maxxis Rambler 40C worked on this one. I may get the Maxxis Ravager for the front. This is the rear. The Ravager has a little bit more side tread, side knobs, which would be better for single track, which is what I'm going to be doing, kind of combination gravel single track with my cross bike. If it's pure gravel, I'm just going to take out you know, my 9er RLT9 or the Giant Revolt. But the TCX is a lot of fun, a really nimble bike. So yeah, looking forward to getting these wheels set up. I'll pick this video back up after I go to the bike shop next week and get another tire. All right, see you in a little bit. Okay, I've finally got the wheels set up. So I got the Maxxis Ravager for the front, like I said. And this is a cool tire. I've never used the Ravager. It's kind of like the Rambler, but with just a little bit more aggressive shoulder and side knobs. So the Maxxis tires work fine on these rims. This is the rear tire that I set up over a week ago, and the tire has held air perfectly. I don't think it's lost any PSI after I got this one set up. And the Ravager went on fairly well. It was a new tire, so the bead was not stretched at all. I did have to use a tire lever on both of them. It was a little snug, but it went on. I put soap on. They aired up fine. The beads popped right in. So yeah, good news that the Maxxis tires work well on these. So what did we learn from this? I want to help you in case you set these wheels up or any other wheels and you run into some of these problems. First of all, unfortunately, the really sweet WTB gravel tires that were sent to me did not work on these rims. And also I tried to put the WTB tires on my Giant rims, which were on the TCX, which is the same rims that I have on the Giant Revolt, and they did not go on. I don't know, I think the Tuff wheels were maybe a tad tighter, but the Giant ones weren't even close either. I reached out to WTB. They told me that all of their rims and tires are to ETRTO standards, but obviously the WTB tires are tighter than some others. And so maybe if you have rims that are really looser fitting, the WTB tires would be the way to go. If you have some tighter rims like the ones I tried, Giant and Tuff, they're just really, they're not going to go on there. Also for these rims, you have to use the valve stems that have just kind of that rubber piece at the top, as opposed to ones that have an O-ring. Most of them are like this, so I don't think that's really going to be an issue for you. Just don't use a valve stem with an O-ring, it's just too wide. And finally, if you use valve stem extenders for deeper dish carbon rims, make sure you start with a shorter valve stem as opposed to a longer one, because the longer one, like I said, you can't thread this nut up past the end of that valve stem extender. So start with a shorter valve stem. So before I end this video, let's go ahead and put the wheels on the Giant TCX to see what they look like. So those are the stock Giant wheels, and those are the Tuff wheels. So that is a pretty sweet looking wheel set on the Giant TCX. I just want to sing the national anthem right now. So they look great. Now it's time to take the bike out for a spin, and I'll make another video on how these ride. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching.